what we're going to do is we'll take a look. I started to work on backdrops. I've got them now. This was the last one for the railroad. So, of course, when you want to do a photo backdrop, which is what I was up to originally, though, you got to have a backdrop, right, to glue the printouts on or whatever you're doing. This originally, I moved into my home here currently, moved from my other home where I'd been quite a few years, 37 years into this one, been about 13 now, but uh, moved here in 2011, 2018. This is what Tunnel City looked like. And if you notice why I put the slide in, if you look on the right side of the feed place, you can see the slot up going up to the telephone pole, and it's all set up for a backdrop. And originally, I put a backdrop in, and the operators on the railroad, my operators were whining. Well, they didn't want a backdrop there, so okay, we took it out for a while. And then I started. Came around 2020, and I thought I'd expand that small tunnel city. And you see now what I've done is where the coal building was, which is Rundgren Coal, got moved to the other side. That became a team track, and in the back you see Sawhorse millwork going in, and here you see it finished. But you see and then if you look down in the lower left-hand corner, you see that there's main line there, and that was purposely left because later in the year in 220 August, Randolph went in, and if you notice now in that lower left hand, that track is connected and the backdrop is in. And it was when Randolph went in, the backdrop absolutely, operators crying or not, the backdrop was going in, and it did go in. And as a result, whoop, did we miss one? No, we didn't. Anyway, so you have the backdrop, and then if you remember, I gave the presentation on Randolph. I turned it, and this happened. So here you see the turning. So there, the backdrop is August 2020, and the section we're going to talk about is up there in the upper right-hand corner. That is the backdrop for the portion for Tunnel City. And you notice that, as I've mentioned to this group before, my backdrops are all removable. You notice I put this so you could see that it's just a piece of fiberboard or hardboard, they call it. I call it Masonite as a brand name. And make one for over the fascia, lower screws, and the backdrop sets in the 1/8 inch or hardboard. And then the upper screws can still hold it. So anyway, we now have the backdrop that we're going to work with for putting on a photo type backdrop. And of course, you could do it commercial. If you're an artist, you can paint your own. So there's obviously many ways to do backdrop, but I got into where go grab the camera and go out and take some slides. And here's what I took a trip, probably about 150 miles worth, to visit a group of small towns, which if in Minnesota you're not familiar, but there's the town I was visiting was like towns of Vesely, Lonsdale, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a little town of Lydia that today, that, well, its claim to fame used to be one gas station, one general store, and one industry. And there's nothing there today, but just it's a home area. But when I got there and went to drive through the town, it struck me this is the area I could use. And so taking photos, I wanted a road there, as you can see, and you have the road in the lower left-hand corner is the road I was actually parked on taking these photographs. And I didn't take it the day one. I just took the other type photos, and I had to go back a second trip because I thought that would come in handy for doing this backdrop. Now, you see, here's another photo. And the thing about it is, in doing the photo backdrop, you're going to have to find a point that you're comfortable with. Okay, in my case, I started to use, if you notice that 30-mile-an-hour sign along the road going into the small town and the tree, these were going to be my marking points because it's pretty much centered on the backdrop going to do. Therefore, so that was where I started, and to make sure that that was marked on the railroad. So you obviously, the easiest, you cut the border off, and eventually you end up cutting the sky off. And you notice here, I shot or used the camera to take two sets of photos. And that was to get the perspective or the size I thought was appropriate. The other thing about it is, if you notice, uh, if you take that 30-mile-an-hour sign in that tree, which I'm saying I was using as a center point, and you'll understand, it'll get clearer as we go along here. I'll explain that. But I want it when you do I did the photo backdrop, that was the center. Of course, the backdrop is only going over on the right side to the town of Randolph, or the view block. So I wanted a point that I could move over to there. Then on the left side, I wanted to come from the edge of the backdrop to this. So that's how I was blending the photo. Start in the center and then add what I needed to the right, or add what you needed from the left in, working both directions. But once you got it put together the way you want, and you've marked it on the backdrop where you're going to glue it, and yeah, I used Super 77 Scotch to spray it on the back and put it into place. I used the Elmer's here and there when I was originally tacking up or making up the backdrop itself. Now, in the past on other backdrops, I used to do a lot of mounting of prints and whatever, instead of, too cheap to take them to the frame shop, so I would do it myself. And so photo mount works real well too if you're gonna. And that Elmer spray adhesive, the only thing I didn't like about that is that the spray nozzle seemed to clog up right away. So, but here you see, so we've sprayed the backdrop and I've positioned it. Now, this is where you see it from the Sawhorse Millwork side. But my point, and you see, if you look at the town from the other side without the backdrop, you notice my problem here in doing the backdrop is, of the photos I shot, notice that here, each industry, the feed mill being the furthest one up, Rundgren Coal in between, and Sawhorse Millwork, they each had their own entrance road. And when I took the photographs, I thought about, well, okay, I've got these various entrances. Maybe I didn't want to duplicate. You notice when that first slide, one of them, the photo had the entrance road in. Well, that would work great in one location, but do you want to repeat it in all three? You could. But instead, I decided what I'd do is, you notice to the right, eliminated the one road, which you saw back here. If you look just to the right of the flagpole, I've written in there, this road eliminated that particular road, and created, notice that here's where I was talking about that 30-mile-an-hour sign and the tree. I thought that area looked great to have a road going into it that I could create onto that photo backdrop. And as a result, that's what you see here. So closed off the road to Sawhorse Millwork and then put the road up to the backdrop. Now, on a direct line like this, when you do this on a backdrop, most will tell you you should have a cove right there where the road ends at the backdrop, either a cove or a triangle. Let's say, when I say triangle, think of a shim, like a wood shim, that would be where it leads up that road up. You could also just do it, which is I did here, is use just various layers of sand until I built it up to what I wanted. So you got out the scenery material, and of course I had the sand, as I said, maybe a little bit of dirt from the local playground, and some of the Woodland Scenics ground foam combined with wet water. And so that's the road I created. So I eliminated the one road, and put the two roads together up to that particular backdrop. And I thought I was pleased with the result. So then you have that, remember that section with the road. Now that I definitely wanted to use here down by the feed mill. And of course, the team track is to the bottom of the screen is the team track, then the feed mill. And again, here we have two industries out on the same entrance road. And so that's, again, using the scenic materials. But in this case, you didn't have to be quite as careful in getting that cove or triangle when the road is meeting that backdrop. Then also, here you see remember when I was talking about I wanted to come from the left side to that center point. This was the additional I shot out there the next day, was that entrance road and this particular portion. Now, Mother Nature was very kind to me, if you notice, and put a pine tree right in the right location out there. So on the end of the backdrop, to have that harsh line, I was able to add a pine tree, as you can see here, and it blends right in with the backdrop. So Mother Nature was kind in that respect. Then you have, so here you really have it, and we have the scenery now really is in place. So what you've got is we started here, and I think once you just, I think a very simple process of combining and a little bit of glue of photographs, you get a backdrop. Now, the thing about it is, once the backdrop is up, you might find, well, there's got to be some things that maybe still need to be changed. And this is one case. Now, if you look carefully, and you got good eyes, and you look at that tree to the right side of the road, there's actually a red stop sign in front of it. Now, for those of us who don't have the great eyes, here you can see this is the red stop sign. Now, I model late spring 1955. So I thought, am I supposed to have a red stop sign? Because I always remember that they were yellow. So a little bit internet research and found that the red stop sign became mandatory by federal law in 1954, late 54. Now, in the state of Minnesota, I know about where most of you guys located, the yellow stop sign stayed around in many of the small towns for a year or two before they really changed to red. So I thought, well, in my case, I'll go back then, and instead of the red, I will do it in yellow. And many years ago, and I mean eons ago, I bought these yellow stop signs, but of course for this backdrop, they're way too big. So put them on a copier, reduced them to, it turned out 62% reduction worked really well. And that's what you see on the far right. Cut it out, stuck it on the backdrop. And you can see it that in front of that tree now, it's turned yellow a little bit. And here it's a little bit better. Now, if you look at the left, this is why you use rollers to put the paint on the backdrop. You notice I touched an area up with the paintbrush. I got lazy. We can't get lazy sometimes. And you notice that the other side's areas are smooth, but that paintbrush, it shows a little bit. So anyway, so again, we got now a backdrop, and I'm pleased with the result, and I'm happy that it's over. That's it, guys.
Looking good, Lester. Thank you.
And let's see if I can stop share.
There you go.
What else have we got?
Oh, yeah. Anybody else have anything to present today?
Yeah, Greg, I'd like to try something.
Okay, good.
Okay, let me get myself on here. I don't know, I'm on an iPad and I don't know that I have a picture up here and I see a thing that says share. So I'm going to see what happens when I do that. Oh, let me see. Share a photo. Let's see what happens when I do that. Oh, can you see that?
Not yet.
No.
All right, let's see what happens when I touch that. I'm not sure what actually I need to. There must be some other thing to add here or something. How about that?
There,
Yep.
there it goes. Yep.
How about that? I can actually take a picture off the iPad and show it to you.
Oh, yes.
Interesting. That's the interior of that elevator I'm building. Remember, it's two pieces of pipe, and between them I've plastered it, so it looks like it's a oval type building. Well, you have to have something in there for the interior, so that's the interior of that particular elevator that I'm working on. And now, what I found very interesting is maybe you've seen this stuff called chalk paint. I
Yep.
did not know that they now make chalk paint in rattle cans. And I was in a Lowe's and picked up this gray chalk paint, and I thought the picture I have, it's very close to the color of the prototype. But the chalk paint makes it very, very flat. So if you want to try something, I would try some chalk paint. Let's see if I can get another picture just out of curiosity. Huh, I guess not. I thought maybe I could just move it over. I don't know that I have to. If you want to bear with me just a minute, I'll just see what's going to happen here. Whoops. Yeah, it got big, didn't it? I'm looking for any kind of button that might move to the next picture.
If you're on the iPad, just move your fingers and try to make it small with your finger, draw them together. No.
That's some kind
No,
of
that's not really working too
That's
well.
not working.
Anyway, kind of fun. That's really all I had. It was more of a, I just wanted to see if I could make an iPad show a picture. I guess I could do it one picture at a time, but I have to move it to another picture. That's all I got.
All right, very good. Thanks, Ron. And thank you, Lester.
Well, mine was short, but there isn't
Yes.
much to do in them.
Yeah, that's good. And interesting that you went to the trouble of getting that stop sign right. So that was
Lester,
cool.
we've got a yellow stop sign in Valpo still.
You do?
What?
Yep, down by the old Wellmans.
Okay.
The old
Still
highway
have a yellow one? Still today?
By Applebee's, when you go out the back entrance to Applebee's.
Well, like I said, what I found on the internet, they said that late 54 is when it became a mandate that they changed to red. So
Yeah.
I found that interesting because I thought it was later than that, but they said it was late 54.
Wow.
And yet I can remember seeing yellow stop signs, and I was 2 years old in 1954, so I'm sure I'm not remembering things from age 2. As with most things that have to be done, the further you get away from the center of power, the slower they are to react. There's a church not far from where we live here that they had a yellow stop sign. Of course, it was private property, but when people were leaving the church parking lot to go on this nearby street, they had an old yellow stop sign that they probably got for free from the local municipality. And they just took it down a year or two ago. And I wonder if somebody realizes what they may have thrown away.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, I thought a lot of small burbs as I was a teen or whatever, they were yellow stop signs. They would see them on and off. In those days, we started driving at 16. And I remember there were small towns you'd be in and you'd be driving and there would be yellow stop signs and they still weren't changed. And I think it became where the funding was going to come from to make that change.
Sure.
And here it is. Picture I took on my phone the other day.
All
Can't
right.
really see it well, but that's it.
Yeah.
So does that mean you don't really have to stop there because it's the wrong color?
Well, you'd have to ask the highway patrolman when he walks up to your car.
Right,
Highway patrol.
or local
has-
constable.
We have them all over.
yeah. All right. Anything else today, gentlemen? All
No,
right, we'll call it early. And next week, Dave, you're gonna present, right?
I should have that presentation ready for next week. Its subject is idler cars.
All
Oh,
right.
neat.
all right.
We got plenty of idlers on this call, so that ought to work out pretty well.
Then it should be a receptive, it should be a receptive audience.
That's right. I resemble that remark.
Yeah.
All right. You guys have a good Thursday. We will see you next
All
week.
right.
Okay,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.